Look how beautiful this is. It's a couple minutes before sunrise. There's light snow coming down. I'm running on about 1.5 inches of snow. It's just beautiful. Running in conditions like this isn't always fun, but in this video, I want to share some of the lessons I've learned about winter running over the last 26 years of training that can help you make winter running a lot more fun. I will never forget one of the best training cycles I ever had was in the dead of a Massachusetts winter. Not the most ideal circumstances for a really good training cycle, but I made it work for me. I ended up running my 10-mile PR of 54:50 that year. And I really just embraced winter running and how kind of awful it was, especially in Massachusetts when it was, you know, the high of 20 degrees when I was out running at 5:30 in the morning before work. And it was just very much a grind every morning. But I look back on that time as a really special time. And so if you want to make winter running fun, here are some lessons I've learned over the years. Number one, you've got to embrace it. You've got to just have fun with the fact that you're running in a winter wonderland sometimes. It's freezing, it's cold, it's going to introduce a lot more adversity to your training. Just embrace it. Recognize that it's going to happen. Because if you go into it thinking that, oh, this is going to be fine, I'm gonna have a good time out there, it's gonna be wonderful, you're probably gonna be disappointed, and that's gonna contribute to some psychological turmoil. We don't want that to happen. So just remember that, you know, you're getting into a certain type of weather scenario when you go out running. Maybe it's a little bit of snow. Right now it's 21 degrees Fahrenheit or about -6 Celsius. And I did a little running before I stopped to film this so that I'm a little bit warmer. But you know, I actually really like coming out here and embracing the cold and some of the snow because it's really peaceful. So it's not all bad. Embrace it, know what you're getting into, and you're gonna be much better prepared for it. All right, the next thing that we're gonna do to make winter running a little bit more manageable is that we're actually gonna build our training around the season itself. Now this sounds a little weird, but let's face it, it can be more difficult in the winter to run really hard workouts, to sprint, to run 5K pace or faster. So it might actually be a really good time for base training. It might be a really good time for marathon training. You know, when you're at these extremes of weather, whether it's the dead of summer or the dead of winter, you can't do as much intensity because in the winter, you're just not gonna be as good at it, your muscles aren't warm, and the risk of slipping is much higher. And then of course in the summer, the heat and the humidity just temper your performances and you don't get as much out of that intensity, plus the risk of heat illness. So you can actually build your training around the season. You can focus more on aerobic training like base training or marathon training. Another thing that you can do is just really embrace weightlifting and cross training, which are typically indoor activities. So you might reduce your mileage a little bit, but you're gonna add in a little bit of maybe the indoor stationary bike, the elliptical. Maybe you belong to a gym that has a pool and you can do some pool running. I have done hours of pool running every day for about 10 days straight. It's wildly boring, but it's very effective at maintaining your aerobic fitness. If you haven't gotten into a serious weightlifting routine yet, now might be the time. You might want to be a little bit more likely to spend time inside where it's a little bit warmer lifting weights than you are running a couple extra miles. Just remember what my college coach, Jim Butler, used to tell us, that cross training is ideally supplemental to your running. Instead of calling it cross training, let's just call it supplemental training. It's layered on top of your running. Now, you don't always have to follow that, but it's just a nice way of conceptualizing it, a fun framework to help you realize that if you could do your normal training, but then layer on top of that cross training as supplemental, as a supplement to your regular running, you're gonna be a lot better runner. Now, another training change that we can make is to get really good at doing either a dynamic warm-up or a series of form drills before we head out for our run. If you're not doing this on the regular already, now is a good time to start because, of course, it's gonna make you into a better runner. It's gonna improve your form, your coordination, your overall athleticism. You're gonna be better warmed up for that run, but also because it's winter, you're gonna be better warmed up for that run. You're literally going to be warmer as you head out the door. So Normally that first mile is pretty uncomfortable. I actually skipped most of my dynamic warm-up. I did about 20 seconds of movements, which is not enough, but I had to get out there to film this winter wonderland this morning. So this dynamic warm-up is going to preheat you so that when you do get out there for your run, you're just gonna feel warmer, you're gonna feel a little bit more comfortable. And if you struggle with the sting of that first mile in the really bitter cold, doing a dynamic warm-up or some drills is going to be a really good idea for you. I will include links under this video to the standard warm-up and the Matic warm-up. So if you want to just plug those dynamic warm-ups directly into your training, there you go. They take about 10 minutes. Now, as someone who's done most of their training in the Northeast or here in Colorado, I can tell you that winter running is so much easier when you have the right gear. When you have dedicated winter running gear that is made to keep you warm, to protect you from the elements, and just to make running more comfortable when you're out there training. Now, I am wearing the 2xU ignition shield compression tights. I love these tights. Oh my God, they're amazing. They are so warm. They've got these waterproof thick panels up top, and then the bottom has this wonderful thermal fabric that is compressive as well. So it just feels like my legs are getting this really warm hug. I absolutely love it. You guys can check them out at 2xu.com, and code Jason is going to save you 20% on anything they have on their site, excluding anything that's on clearance or their wetsuits. But if you want to try out any of their tights, I've got the ignition shield tights that I'm wearing right now, as well as the Lightspeed React tights that I wear on some of my long runs. These tights are made for performance. They're made to keep you warm. And I just want to thank 2xU for their support of this video. Make sure to check them out on their website and give them some support with that discount code for helping me make these videos. Another very practical tip: get mittens instead of gloves. Mittens are much better at keeping your hands warm than gloves are. So that's a little quick tip for anyone who hasn't been running in the winter for their entire life. All right, we're back inside because it was so cold out there, my camera stopped working. So most of the video is going to be out there, but just a good example of the weather out there. It's so cold, not even this piece of technology is going to work. So let's move on to our tip number 4 for making winter running more fun, more manageable, and just a better time so that you can be better at adhering to your training program. Tip number 4 is run with friends. Go to that running club, that running group that meets once or twice a week. Call up your buddies, try to meet them for another run once or twice a week, especially with your long runs or your harder workouts. The runs that are a little bit of a bigger lift, try to get out there with other people. They are going to make the time go by faster. You're going to be less likely to complain in front of them. And it's just going to be a much better experience for you. And if you are doing a workout or a long run, they're going to push you to have a better performance in subpar weather conditions. You know, I'll never forget one of the most fun stories of my entire running career. The favorite memory, I still think about it a couple times a year, is I was running with my cross country team when I was in high school during a snowstorm. And we weren't running particularly long. We weren't going hard. We were just, let's just go out there for 45 minutes. And we were in some conservation land in my town, and we must have took a wrong turn. It looked so much different because there was snow everywhere. And for about 10 minutes, we were just incredibly lost in the woods in like a winter wonderland with snow coming off the trees. And it was just really beautiful. And we were just cracking up laughing. I remember just having a great time with my friends in the snow on a snowy trail run. You know, our pace was nothing to be impressed by. That wasn't the point. The point was to make a memory with my friends. And here I am more than 20 years later, and I still think about that. And that's how special these moments can be. If you surround yourself with other runners, if you get out there, brave the elements, and just try to be positive in spite of the weather. And finally, we're going to adjust our expectations. It can be really psychologically difficult to train through the winter if you think it's going to be just as easy as training through the spring or the fall. Just know that you're not going to be able to sprint as fast in the cold.
There is a reason why every really good sprinting program at the university level in the United States is pretty much in the South. To be a good sprinter, you've got to have the right training environment, and part of that is the weather. So just know, cold weather, not great for performance. The conditions outside might prevent you from being able to run a little bit quicker. You just have to take all of this into consideration. Run a little bit more by effort and time rather than pace and miles. That is really going to help you adjust your expectations so that you don't think you're going to go out there and just rock a workout or a long run and just have the pace be your normal outdoor running pace. Things are going to be slower, and that's okay. There we have it, runners. This is my 27th winter that I have been running through, and I hope these lessons were helpful. You know, some of them are very tactical, some of them are related to your mindset up here. And I think it's really important to draw from both in your training so that you have a good mindset going into it, but you also have several strategies in place to help you deal with the winter weather. So big thanks to 2XU for supporting this video. Go to 2XU.com and use code JASON in all caps. You'll get 20% off site-wide on anything they carry. Their ignition shield tights are keeping me very warm in the winter. I am really loving this pair of tights, especially because they have some compression to them. I really like compression tights, not the recovery compression, which can be quite strong, but I like a mild compressive feeling when I'm out there running, especially in the cold. It just really feels like, you know, I'm in touch with my muscles. I feel better proprioception. I also just like the warmth that it provides, and the 2XU ignition shield tights are incredibly warm. They're waterproof up top so that, you know, especially on the front of your quadriceps, if you're running through the snow, that's going to soak through because any snow that gets caught up there is just going to melt. So big thank you to 2XU. Please check them out. Use code JASON for 20% off anything that isn't their clearance or wetsuits. And this can help you get through some of this nasty winter weather.